Hello, and welcome to the League of Women Voters of Portland's Voter Forum for election to Circuit Court Position 12 of the 4th District, which is Multnomah County. I'm Debbie Kay, member of the League of Women Voters of Portland and moderator for this forum. The League is a nonpartisan organization dedicated to making democracy work. We believe democracy works best when voters are informed about issues and engaged in their communities. We're presenting this forum to give eligible voters the opportunity to learn more about these candidates. The League is grateful for support from the Carol and Velma Sailing Foundation, the Weiss Foundation, members of the League of Women Voters of Portland, the Sarah Fruing Fund, and our media partner, Metro East Community Media. The 4th District of the Circuit Court covers all of Multnomah County, and all county voters are eligible to vote for candidates for this office. All candidates for this position 12 were invited to participate in the voter forum. They accepted and are here today. Peter G. Klym and Judge Adrian L. Brown. Welcome to the candidates and thank you for participating.
Thank you.
Under the voter forum standards for this event, each of the speakers will have a 1-minute opening statement, followed by questions we've prepared based on League positions and League members' interests. Each speaker will have up to 60 seconds to answer each question, and they will have a 2-minute closing statement. To determine the order in which the candidates will present their opening and closing statements and answer questions, we use the Secretary of State's current and previous official candidate random alphabets drawn in every election cycle. Mr. Klym will give the first opening statement. Please go ahead. You have 2 minutes. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Debbie, and thank you to the League for hosting this forum. It's a wonderful service that you do for our voters. I'm running for Multnomah County Circuit Court Judge because we need a full slate of judges that are able to help the busiest court in the state dig through its backlog of cases and help ease the strain on the local public defenders and district attorneys' offices. About 80% of the work of the Multnomah County Courthouse is criminal in nature. I've been a public defender for the last decade, practicing only Oregon State criminal law, and I've been dealing with these massive caseloads my entire career. I'm running because I'm well suited to help efficiently work through that backlog while not putting anybody's individual rights at risk. We need judges that are able to use court time efficiently and help ease the strain that the court system is under. Thank you.
Thank you. Judge Brown, your 1-minute opening statement, please.
Thank you, Debbie. And again, also thank you to the League and the Portland District for having us today. I was first elected in 2020, and I've spent the last 5 years showing up to do this job and doing it on behalf of the voters who elected me in 2020. I believe in democracy and the right to have our judges be independent and free from executive overreach. When I came onto the bench, I came with a experience of both civil rights enforcement as well as having been a veteran. Today, I come to you with lived experience as a mom with a child with significant learning disabilities. I also am coming to you as someone who is supported by all of the leaders of the court, from the presiding judge to the chief criminal judge to our start court and our mental health court judges, all said, I am the choice that will provide voters with the opportunity to continue what they know, that they can have in the courts.
Thank you. Our first question goes to Judge Brown. Do you have a preference in assignment within the court if elected? And if so, what would it be and why?
You know, it's a great question that voters rightfully have. One of the things that's important to note is that judges on our bench are generalists unless you're a family law judge. And so while my opponent just mentioned a statistic about 80% being criminal, and I'm not exactly sure how much that weighs on a daily basis, but I can tell you that the civil docket is an extremely busy docket And it also has to sit backseat to the criminal docket. And so while I adore all the different types of cases that I have brought before me, what I believe is important in a judge is the approach that she brings to each case, no matter what it is, civil or criminal. It's that compassion, the fairness, and upholding the rule of law in every case with every individual, and ensuring that rights are protected and that each individual is heard. And that's what I will commit no matter what I'm assigned.
Thank you. Mr. Klym, your response?
I agree with Judge Brown. The work of the court is assigned by presiding. I would be eager and happy to do any of the work sent my way. I think the most important thing is to be available to take every case that comes through the door. Primarily, it is criminal work, but I would be eager and happy to do all the civil work and any other matters that were sent my way.
Thank you. The next question for you, Mr. Klym. What, if any, criminal sentencing reforms would you support?
So that's an interesting question. And I think it's important to note that a circuit court judge is not a policymaker. Our job is to apply the law as laid out by the legislature, or in some cases, voters on measures as interpreted by the courts of appeals. So I don't want to suggest any specific sentencing reforms. I will say that I think our society over-incarcerates individuals. I think we need to look more holistically at people and look at restorative justice options whenever we can. But as a judge, I will apply the law that exists. And judges are not actually allowed to advocate for specific law reforms.
Thank you. Judge Brown, your response to that question?
Certainly. So while certainly I agree that judges are not policymakers, when judges are called to testify before the legislature, and they are called to testify, it is to help inform the laws that are enacted. And I believe there are and is a definite role for judges to be out in the community and listening to what exactly are the needs of our community and not assume that we know what they are. For sentencing reforms, one of the things that I have seen in the last 5 years on the bench that we desperately need are more treatment courts. So we have been a leader in the treatment courts that we have brought to bear in our county. Everything from mental health court to a court that does deal with serious felony offenders as well. We are working on bringing in a veterans court. I think we have room to expand that to ensure that families with children are also brought into treatment court so that the holistic idea of how it impacts everybody. I certainly agree that incarceration is something that we need to make sure we are paying attention to, that we're not overusing it.
Excuse me, Judge Brown, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you've run out of time for that question.
I'm sorry, I just saw the stop sign. Thank you. Sorry.
The next question is for you, Judge Brown. What weight, if any, should voters give to the number of a judicial candidate's financial supporters, the identities of their donors, and the amount of their average contributions?
Yeah, so, this is an issue near and dear to my heart because I ran in 2020. And as a result of drawing Mr. Klym as a challenger, I'm running again. And it is extremely prohibitive in the sense of costs. There is absolutely no limit on what individuals can donate, where they can donate from, and how much they can donate. And that, I think, is a very exclusive to people who are able to afford it or people who can take loans to self-fund their campaigns. And so despite my own personal struggle, I think it's also something that we are limiting who our candidates are. We are not getting a diverse array. So I think all of it should be certainly exposed and open to the public. And also we need campaign finance reform immensely for state elected officials, which judges are.
Thank you. Mr. Klym?
I agree with much of what the judge said. The Orstar website will show who has donated to what candidates, and thankfully there is some campaign finance reforms going into effect, I believe, next year that will include judicial races. However, the fact of judicial elections is kind of a hot topic of conversations, whether it makes sense, whether it doesn't. And one of the reasons why some people say it doesn't make sense is because we don't really want people contributing money to future judges. There can be some potential issues of either actual or perceived bias if that happens. So I do think that's something we should be concerned about. As a public defender, I don't have the funds to loan myself a massive amount to try to run a campaign. I think I've been very privileged to have a lot of friends that support me and believe in me and have given me small amounts of money, and I think that's great.
Thank you. You are watching the video of the voter forum of the League of Women Voters of Portland's for the candidates for position 12 for the 4th District Court, Multnomah County, or perhaps you are listening to the podcast. We're glad you're with us. Our next question is for Mr. Klym. What would be the most significant considerations for you as a judge in dealing with self-represented litigants?
It's a great question, and I have dealt with many either self-represented litigants at a trial when I deal with their case on appeal, or dealt with individuals who are contemplating representing themselves at trial while I was their currently appointed counsel. And I've watched many judges handle pro se litigants, and it's a challenge. It's a challenge for the judge. It's a challenge for the opposing party. I think the most important thing is to practice patience with the party, assume that everyone has good intentions and is trying their best. And it's very important, even if people do not know the legal procedures or the legalese, they should be heard, and we should encourage methods and practices to allow them to be heard appropriately. Whether or not you're represented by a fancy lawyer or you're representing yourself, you have the same right in court.
Thank you. Judge Brown?
Thank you. And this is an area that really distinguishes me from my opponent in that I have had trials, civil trials involving self-represented parties amongst corporations. Indeed, I had a case involving Intel and employment and race discrimination where the plaintiff was self-represented and represented by lawyers. You also Intel was represented by corporate lawyers. You also see this a lot in landlord-tenant trials, which will come up from the high volume docket to the circuit court when those trials go over the time limit that are allowed for the high volume docket. You also see it a lot when you're dealing with individuals, as Mr. Klym mentioned, on a criminal basis. If today is with the public defender shortages, we've had motions brought by individuals seeking to dismiss their cases, and they're representing themselves. One of the things that you really need to pay attention to as a judge is ensuring that balance in the courtroom. So your job as a judge is to ensure that equity.
Thank you. Judge Brown, the next question to you. How would you work to enhance public understanding of the circuit court's role in our communities?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite parts of being a judge, is being in the community and getting out there outside of the work hours, because during the workday, it is expected that you're on the bench, and that's how you're serving the community. One of the ways that I have found being able to do that even while I'm on the bench is ensuring that jurors have an opportunity to be involved in providing feedback. Not every judge does this. It is certainly a practice of each judge to decide, and I respect my colleagues that don't, but I find it has been of immense value to get the feedback from jurors just as to their experience, not into their deliberations, but just as to their experience as jurors and how we can improve as a court. On the other side of the courthouse doors, when I'm out in the community, one of the ways that I have served is serving for SOAR, Legal Immigration Services, where we go and we help individuals who are studying to take their citizenship tests learn about the separation of powers. I have also gone to Park Rose High School and served as a mentor, sharing a book with a high schooler and being able to connect with a high schooler that way. I have also
Thank you. I'm sorry to cut you off.
It's okay. Thank you.
Mr. Klym, how would you work to enhance public understanding of the circuit court's role in our communities?
Yes, well, thankfully, most people in Multnomah County, their only real interaction with the circuit court is when they get that jury summons and they come in and hang out in the jury room for a day or two, and maybe they get to serve on a trial, maybe they don't. For other people, especially those in underrepresented areas in East County, they might have other experiences where they are appearing in court because they've been charged with a crime, gotten a citation, or perhaps they're having a landlord-tenant issue. And I think individual judges can certainly help educate the community by participating in various community events and forums. But I think an important way that the court as a whole can help the community understand the court's work is by bringing the court's work to the community. There is a East County courthouse out in Rockwood that I do not think is used enough, and I think it'd be great if we could start making that more of a hub for the East County community to be able to access justice a little more easy.
Thank you. Mr. Klym, what, if any, objective public quantitative information is available to voters to assess the performance of a circuit court judge? If you're not aware of any such information, should it be available to the voters?
Is an awesome question. I love that question. And the answer is, in this state, no. I do not know of any objective statistics that are available to the voters. Now, in, I think, about 14 states, they have judicial evaluations that are done on a regular basis, and those are provided to voters either before a retention election or for other purposes. I think that is an excellent idea. I think judicial races are what are called low information races, where many people have no idea who they're voting for or why. And that's not good for democracy. If we're going to have elected judges, we need to work harder on making sure that people actually understand what they're voting for.
Thank you. Judge Brown, same question to you.
Yeah, thank you. So I will, first of all, say that I completely agree that judges and the information provided to voters is certainly lacking. When I ran in 2020, one of the things that was most rewarding was helping to educate the public out there about what judges even do. People don't even know what to ask, but they don't even know what we do. And so it was a fantastic way to engage in that public education process. Now, as a sitting judge for the last 5 years, I wholeheartedly agree that we need to engage. In fact, one of the things I noticed when I went through the League of Women Voters 411 results is that the only other judge who is providing information on the state court programs throughout Supreme Court and Appellate Court was a Supreme Court justice. None of my other colleagues who are running unopposed provide that information. We need to do better.
Thank you. As a member of the League of Women Voters, I agree. We all want more information about our judges. Next question to you, Judge Brown. What, if any, role can a circuit court judge play in the treatment of immigrants as parties, witnesses, or jurors in our courts? Yeah,
so I have seen this in multiple ways as a sitting court judge, and even before I became a judge. So I think the very first way is to not assume that we know what immigrants in our communities need. There are so many different cultures and backgrounds and languages. This is exactly the reason why it's so important to get out into the community and listen and be willing to do that, after 5 o'clock or during the lunch hour. And that is extremely challenging. As Mr. Klym just stated previously, the court is extremely busy. And yet we must make time. We also have the ability to ensure that our judges are educated on use of interpreters. One of the things I did when I first came to the bench was sit with our Diversity and Equity and Inclusion Committee and bring in a trainer to help judges understand how best to use interpreters. It's the ability to really ask those questions and make sure we're doing enough to ensure people feel comfortable.
Thank you. Mr. Klym, your response?
Yes. Well, again, individual circuit court judges can't make policy and shouldn't be trying to, but it is important for a judge to treat everyone with respect and to listen to their stories and to consider the consequences that their background might have in any kind of court-related activity like a criminal sentence. It's also important that a judge make sure that a person's attorney has adequately advised them of those consequences that might occur. One of the judges I most look up to on the circuit court is Judge Swade. And when he first took the bench, after he would take a plea, he would ask us attorneys what he could do better, what he missed, which I really appreciate. And if I'm elected, I will certainly be seeking that kind of feedback. But one thing I pointed out to Judge Swade was he didn't do what was called the Padilla warning the way that I thought it maybe should have been done. And that's an advisement to a client who is, or a defendant who is pleading guilty, to make sure they understand that there might be immigration consequences. And Judge Swade has noted to me that every time he does a plea, he thinks of me when he gets to that part. And I think that's a really important role of the circuit court judge.
Thank you. Mr. Klym, what effect, if any, might the philosophy of restorative justice have on your performance as a judge?
Thank you. So I mentioned this a bit earlier. I'm a firm believer in restorative justice. Again, a circuit court judge doesn't get to make sentencing law, but the Oregon Constitution and statutes already provide some ways that we can use restorative justice. Article 1, Section 42 of the Constitution gives victims the right to be heard during sentencing hearings. And we have what's called a civil compromise statute, which allows lower level crimes to be basically settled out of court with the agreement of the victim and the defendant. I think those practices should be encouraged. I would love to see a restorative justice docket where victims can opt in to take a case out of the normal procedures and see if we can't settle more cases using restorative justice. Because if a victim and a defendant both agree that that's what's best for them in the community, why are we getting in the way of that?
Thank you. Judge Brown, what is your response to this question about restorative justice?
Yes, well, one of the pieces of the puzzle that Mr. Klym left out there is that the DA has to agree. It's not just the victim. The DA has to be involved and willing to engage in that process as well. And I have seen restorative justice used in multiple ways. When, as a judge in settlement conferences, it's an opportunity to sit down with both parties and have casual conversations. One of my practices when I do settlement conferences is to get off the bench, take the robe off, and sit down with the parties. Because my role at that point in time is not to decide legal issues, it's to decide how we can practically and reasonably resolve that case. And one of the ways is to bring in the restorative justice concept. And I have done that in cases. In fact, I did that in a case involving a political protest where there were two individuals who were at opposite ends of the political spectrum. And the harm that was caused to the victim was something that the individual, despite the political differences, felt extremely awful about. And it was an opportunity to bring in that type of framework.
Thank you.
Can I briefly respond to that?
Certainly.
So the civil compromise statute does not require the district attorney to sign off on anything. The district attorney certainly would have to be involved if they were to provide the notice to victims of this opportunity. So the district attorney's participation would make this a lot easier, but it's not legally required under the civil compromise statute.
I was talking about your restorative justice docket.
Thank you. Judge Brown, what if any role can a circuit court judge play in the treatment of the homeless as parties, witnesses, or jurors in our courts?
This is actually an issue that just came up this morning. So I was in court this morning and I had a plea assigned to me. And the individual who was going to be taking the plea, I was informed was houseless and was running late. And the defense attorney did a fantastic job of providing the court and the prosecutor an update as to his history of showing up and his ability to be involved. but he didn't have a phone and he didn't have a watch, and indeed he had mental illness. And so luckily, and this is where it takes, the judge's judgment to decide, are we going to rush this just to issue a warrant, or are we going to give some time here to see if we can get this resolved and get it off the docket? My opponent has criticized me for taking time with my dockets, but this was a classic example of being able to wait and getting that individual. And he did. He came in about 45 minutes late and we got the plea done.
Thank you. To you, Mr. Klym.
Yeah, so I agree with the judge that we often have to extend a special grace to individuals that are dealing with extra hurdles in operating with the court system. And as a public defender, I've represented probably hundreds of houseless individuals, and it makes it hard for attorneys, it makes it hard for the court, but we need to make sure everybody gets their day in court and that we aren't reflexively applying rules or issuing warrants when that's not going to do anybody any good. I thought it was interesting that you also asked about the houseless population and jury duty. I have to say, I don't know if I've ever seen somebody that was visibly houseless serve on a jury or be in a jury pool. And I think that's probably because you have to have an address to receive a jury summons. And I'd like to think more about how we might be able to include those people in our jury pools, because the jury is supposed to be made up of your peers, and there are plenty of houseless individuals serving as defendants.
Thank you. This is our last question coming, and it's to you, Mr. Klym. What, if any, changes in the Oregon jury system or jury service do you think should be considered?
So following the Supreme Court's decision in Louisiana v. Ramos in 2020, Oregon is no longer one of only 2 states that permitted non-unanimous jury verdicts. Oregon generally has a more permissive system for who is able to serve on a jury. So I don't think I have any specific suggestions for jury reform in the state, other than perhaps thinking more about how we can include people that don't have permanent addresses in our jury pool.
Thank you. Judge Brown, your response?
Yes, so I've had the privilege and the honor to receive feedback in hundreds of cases that I have had before me with juries involved, and there have been just invaluable feedback from jurors. One of the main things is how much we are paying jurors for their sacrifice. A lot of jurors, houseless or not, are sacrificing immensely by not getting paid at their jobs. And we're paying them not even enough for parking or lunch. There is this expectation that people will take public transit. But if you live out in East County, taking public transit in every day may not be feasible for you, or if you have childcare needs. Also, another issue involving jury reform that I'd like to really look at nationally is the language barrier. So we provide interpreters for defendants, we provide interpreters for witnesses, but we don't provide interpreters for jurors unless it's ASL, American Sign Language. And this is an area that I think, in even just talking recently to the group of the SOAR immigrants that we were helping, is they're really concerned about not being able to serve as jurors, and we should address that.
Thank you. There we have it, all of our questions. Thank you both very much. The candidates may now provide their closing statements. Judge Brown will go first. You have 2 minutes.
All right, thank you. Well, I hope that the voters have seen from this exchange the breadth and the depth of my experience, not just as a litigator, having served both as a civil rights enforcement under the Obama administration for 8 years, but also as an Air Force veteran serving in the JAG Corps, representing both the prosecution as well as serving as a public defender. And then my lived experience as a mom and as a person herself with a disability. I have been able to bring that lived experience to the bench every day and use it in a way to ensure that fairness and justice are not only something that I practice, but also something that ensures that the people in my courtroom before me are heard, no matter how busy the docket is and no matter what their circumstances are. I also look forward to serving the next 6 years and bringing all the invaluable feedback that I've received to bear, and ensuring that we have a process that continues to evolve and grow. I am extremely concerned at this point in time that our courts are under threat. We are under threat of being attacked by outside and executive influence and overreach. This election is about keeping our democracy strong. And just as much as we want jurors to show up for that, we also need voters to show up for that. That's the Oregon way. And I strongly believe that in order to ensure that we are keeping democracy strong, we must have an independent judicial branch.
Thank you. Mr. Klym, your closing statement, 2 minutes, please.
Great. Thank you again for having us. I just want to note that there's many things that Judge Brown and I agree on. We both believe public service is key, and we want what is best for our community. I don't know the judge very well, but I think we're ideologically aligned on many things. I agree with many of her answers here today. But I do think that the courthouse needs a fresh start in position 12. We need somebody that's going to show up every day, work hard to get through the massive backlog of cases at that court, but especially in that department. I am able and eager and willing to roll up my sleeves and get the work done. I'm a grinder. I've dealt with massive caseloads my entire career, and I'm ready to help ease the burden of the court. So I'm asking for your vote on May 19.
Thank you.
If I may just have a brief rebuttal to those accusations, just briefly, the accusations that there's some backlog in Department 12 is simply unsupported. Certainly, as the court has to prioritize cases, there are always going to be cases that are waiting to be heard, cases waiting to be decided. And those are typically civil cases because the criminal cases do come first, given the Constitution. But I am certainly objecting to my opponent's unsupported accusations that there is any data showing that I don't show up to do the work of the court and do it in a way that is ensuring fairness and justice.
Thank you for that message. Mr. Klym, do you have anything further to say?
No, thank you. Thank you for having us.
All right, I will give my closing now. This concludes today's voter forum with the candidates for position 12 for the 4th District Circuit Court in Multnomah County. We thank the candidates for their participation. Audience members, please share this forum recording and podcast with your family and friends. We all need to be informed voters. If you are registered to vote by April 28th, which is the last day to register, you should receive your ballot by May 6th. As with all Oregon elections, most voters will participate by mailing in their ballots, although in-person voting is available. Check your Multnomah County voters pamphlet online or when it arrives by mail at your home. Ballots will be mailed out starting April 29th. To be counted, ballots must be postmarked by Election Day, Tuesday, May 19th at 8 p.m. The League of Women Voters strongly advises that if you're going to return your ballot by mail, you mail it at least 1 week before Election Day, that is by Tuesday, May 12th. You can also find an official ballot drop box location near you by checking vote411.org or in the Multnomah County Voters Pamphlet. If you drop your ballot at an official ballot drop box, you have until 8 p.m. Tuesday, May 19th to do so. The League of Women Voters is a nonprofit membership organization. We hope this forum was meaningful for you. We welcome you to join the League or contribute to the cost of these services at lwvpdx.org. This is Debbie Kay for the League of Women Voters of Portland. Thank you for watching and listening and for being an informed voter. And remember, your vote counts.